So, it's DLC time, is it? Welcome back to the channel, and those new here, be sure to subscribe and stay a while. I'm the Beefy Pig, or Pig for short. So, Cinder Shadow is something I haven't played since 3 years ago, so this story may be a bit fresh for me, and I'm excited to play this, and I'll play this on Hard Classic, since I hear it's difficult as all hell. It's basically like the older Fire Emblem games where units are pre-promoted and reclassing is not as accessible since seals are pretty much gone in this specific mode. There is a specific point in the game where you need to play well, and I'd say at least in the minimum play past chapter 10 after, Gerald has done the whole Fire Emblem dad tradition and all. But it's not spoiler heavy towards the main game. This DLC comes in at 25 USD, and it comes in with a few things that released in waves as well. So we'll be starting off with the freebies that came. There's stuff like quality of life changes and all, but I'll be covering the major noticeable updates from 1.0 to the release of Cindered Shadows. The first thing I noticed was just changing Violet's outfit in the monastery, and you can have this outfit known as the Officer's Academy uniform. Next is the most well-known update in the game with the addition of Maddening mode, which came out for free, so anyone who dared try the game on Maddening at the time was seen as crazy. Mind you, I was not into Fire Emblem at all. I was a Fire Emblem hater, in fact. This grew especially when Violet was added into Smash Ultimate in early 2020, which, funnily enough, got more people into 3 houses, including myself. If you want Maddening mode thoughts from my perspective, you can check in the link in the description below. But in a nutshell, I like Maddening mode and its difficulty. While some maps are poorly implemented and transferred over, generally speaking, it transfers over quite nicely and shows how broken of a game 3 houses is. But that's my Maddening thoughts in a nutshell. But the next thing I want to talk about is following the release of 1.0.2. This is also when the voice of Byleth was changed from Christopher Nyozzi to Zach Aguilar. Take a listen.
Stay focused. Stay focused. Each battle, a chance to grow.
Each battle, a chance to grow.
Personally, I prefer the old voice, but Zach Aguilar did a really good job of Byleth and all, but the reason why his voice was changed was because of an NDA violation. For those who do not know what an NDA is a non-disclosure agreement, where in this example, Christopher Nyozzi signed to a contract for however long to basically make the fact that he voices Byleth confidential, until usually the game's released. There's other things about him that I will not get into, but if you want to do so, go ahead and do your own research. Not only that, the Yellow Ox battles appeared as well and are paid DLC pretty much, which concludes 1.0 to 1.0.2. Following the release of 1.1.0, 3 Houses has increased its save slots from 5 to 25. It's crazy to think that there was 5 save files and you could use this, and this was after Maddening was released, which was likely why they added this. There's also the customizations of your students' clothing, such as wearing a maid or a butler outfit. With summer and evening outfits, Juritsu was added as a playable unit exclusive to the Crimson Flower route. They had an opportunity to add Rodrigue and Judith to the game, and they are programmed in the game, so it makes no sense why they didn't add them, but whatever. The sauna was added as well with the ability to slightly increase students' weapon EXP or proficiency and spend time with students inside the sauna. And it was added to the game as a playable unit, which is neat and all, only if you pay $25 to pick her up. Yep. 1.2.0 is more quality of life changes, which is good. So let's jump to the real stuff. Cindered Shadows was released in this update, including the new cast known as the Ashen Wolf. You can access the DLC story by the main menu. The title screen are only given 2 difficulty options, normal and hard mode. No Maddening, so no new purple title screen, unfortunately. I would like to bring up the fact that there was a secret 4th difficulty which was unreleased dubbed Inferno mode, which to put it simply makes Maddening mode look like Fate's normal Phoenix. But Cindered Shadows is a separate story from the main game and has some ties here and there, but let's just kick off the DLC story of 3 Houses. We begin by Rhea giving a lordom to Eloise, while later that same night the main group finds a thief running to a hole in the monastery. Curiosity gets you as Byleth and the 3 lords tag along to you in Abyss. A member of each house joins your team, Hilde from Golden Deer, Linhardt from Black Eagles, and Ash from the Blue Lions. You run into this group that basically says, outsiders, get the hell out of here, otherwise it gets real bad. So, we kick off chapter 1. Your units are all level 20 with advanced classes. Each unit is a different class and plays a different role. Byleth is Byleth, being a swordmaster, which is only fine because of wind sweep. Dimitri is similar to a Jagan unit, which means he's going to be the best unit on offense, with Kanto being broken in 3 houses. So this is nice. Claude is a flyer in this story, but he doesn't have a rank on bows, particularly A rank, so he does not get enclosure, unfortunately, so that sucks. But generally speaking, Claude is still good. He can generally do chip damage in this mode. Edelgard is your tank. Starting next just Fortress Knight, which can be decent. She has solid defense against grapplers and all, but don't let her get folded by a mage. The issue with Edelgard is that she has a bad hit rate and most of the time is very inconsistent when landing damage, and she's most likely not gonna double half of the time. 9 times out of 10 she will not double. Ashe is your ranged sniper and he's fast, meaning he can have a good chance of doubling most units and can either one round or chip most of the time. He's not a bad unit on this team. So next is Linhardt, who is your healer, which is perfectly fine. I honestly would have preferred Mercy for healing, but Linhardt doesn't have warp. So in your starting 7, you don't have an offensive mage. Lastly, Hilda as a warrior. She's fine to use. Axe Fair and Axe Fair 10 are quite nice, but you rarely get consistent crits in as well. Yet Hilda still has good uses for support and one-rounding enemies as well. You are given gambits, but most of them suck. If I'm gonna be honest, your best gambits are from Dimitri and Violet's Assault Troop. Sure, Edelgard and Yuri have Blaze, but even then, you only use it once, and Blaze has a very inconsistent hit rate. There's also the thing of MVP granting EXP on whoever it goes to, but that's about it. I'll speak more on the units later, but for now, let's talk about the first map. So this map is quite easy to do once you can handle the grapplers and bait Balthus with Edelgard. It's quite easy. There will be a decent amount of reinforcements here and there, but nothing too crazy. Happy can get killed easily and Constance isn't doing anything to your team. Sure, she has bolting, but Yuri is the only threat since he has extra avoidance on enemy phase and he can double quite easily, but ranged attacks can take him down easily.
I know you. You're the one Lord Lonato adopted, isn't that right?
That's right. Wait, I recognize you too. You're Count Rowe's adopted son.
Well, what have we here? Some lost kid stumbling around in the dark? Stay a while, won't you? Shame indeed not to have a bit of fun with each other while we've got the chance, you know? Maybe I got a bit too carried away. Nah.
So that's chapter 1 and the Ashen Wolves. Ever since they found out how strong Dimitri is and how strong our team is in general, the Ashen Wolves are like, damn, y'all beat our ass. So therefore, y'all are welcome to the team. And we know that you're strong. So we head into Abyss, which has lovely music, by the way, that you can fall asleep to in this video. But just don't fall asleep, please. Take a listen. Unfortunately, there's not much you can do in this, though you can only repair gambits and your weapons. You can't buy gambits, so no stride, impregnable wall, blessing and all, which is fine since those gambits are way too broken. After this, you get the Ashen Wolves that come off the bench, are forced into your starting lineup. Yuri is a speedster. You think he can be a lovely dodge tank, but if he gets hit, you might as well just hit the Shadow Realm. Since 3 Houses is such a player phase oriented game, Yuri also gets the benefit of being player phase oriented, since Duelist Blow grants 30 plus avoidance on player phase when Yuri initiates combat. Moving along, Constance has bolting and some magic as well as a dark flare, but has normal magic range. Next, Happy is the dark magic user with extra range, so a magic sniper. So I guess Lysithea, if you will, or Walmart does say discount Lysithea, whatever you want to say. So for decent crit rate, you can use Death Eye. Now, next and lastly of the Ashen Wolves, Balthus is a grappler, so he can land some good hits and all, but they each have something unique to the table in this mode. Balthus has the relic Vajra Mushti. I might have butchered that, but still, it has a okay crit rate, but you might be able to quad a good amount since gauntlets are brave weapons and they're quite broken in this game, so that's very nice. So Yuri's a trickster, Constance is a dark flyer, Happy's a Valkyrie, and Balthus is a war monk, so he can slightly heal a unit, but probably about like 10 HP or so. I don't think it's worth using because Balthus is more offense oriented than support, unless if that's what you're going for in a challenge run, for example, but that's about it. So with all that said, let's move to chapter 2. So basically at this point of the story, the wolves tell us that there are thieves pulling up to Abyss and taking stuff or hurting people. We find an open coliseum, I'll assume. So we kick off by handling the initial enemies that waves upon waves of reinforcements spawn endlessly. Even Death Knight pulls up on your ass. He just wanted to stop by and say hello, and there's no City to save us. So unfortunately, we keep him at bay by not approaching him, and you don't get anything for beating him. No Dark Seal, maybe a Crescent Sickle, but unless you got Swift Strikes, personally, there's no reason that I would use that weapon. The reinforcements are not the most typical, but if you're not playing right, you can easily get overwhelmed and lost. But I mentioned that none of the wolves can die if you're playing classic, and there's a map where you cannot lose a single unit, otherwise you lose the map. So basically the post-game interview of chapter 2 is that the wolves describe a rare object known as the Chalice of Beginnings, and it is a rare cup that looks like this. We are also introduced to Alfred, which is the father figure of the wolves, and has an obsession with your mom. I'm not joking, he talks about Sidri often in his time with her while Gerard bagged her. This is what she looks like, by the way, and all I'll say is, I understand Gerard. But back to the actual chalice, it's your normal chalice that can do something, but we'll get to that later. We head out to an open area where all of a sudden Constance becomes emo. It's a part of her character, and pretty much she's a completely different person.
I was quite rude just now. Please accept my humble apologies for treating you so foully. I presume too much to stand beside such noble paragons. Allow me to dig a hole to bury myself in.
No matter how deep underground we are, I guess sunlight is still sunlight. Or Constance.
So after that shenanigans, we are alerted and found out that there are a shit ton of golems. You're familiar with these things if you have played Crimson Flower, Silver Snow, and Blue Lions if you have done Reyes Paralog. The easiest way to bait them is with Linhardt or Constance. They are magic tanks, but let a physical attacker find a way to them on enemy phase and they will meet God, or the goddess in this case. So, is there an afterlife in Fodlan, or in the religion of Saros, or the teachings of Saros, or whatever? I know Rhea brings up Helena and Crimson Flower, but is the goddess's realm similar to, you know, heaven from the Bible, for example? That's just another unanswered question to add in this game. So, we kick off chapter 3 on top of this hill while we have to find the chalice by connecting a key to one of these 3 pillars. Like I said, it was easy to handle the golems since they attack magically. If you have res growth on Linhardt's enough times, you can no damage against these golems as long as you have rally res with Constance and cancel away, so there are no other units in range. You don't need to gambit, but it would help to do that against these golems. Now, these golems had the general icon next to them, so you have to kill them to get the keys to break the seals, which on the middle, on the right, and on the left. Use the key, and whichever is the right one will end the map. The enemies themselves are more warriors, assassins, grapplers, and Edelgard has no problem tanking. So as long as she doesn't run into a mage, like the golems for example, she'll be fine. But I'd say this was, you know, the easiest map so far in Cindered Shadows, mainly because of the reinforcements. There were just only, you know, golems and maybe a couple of physical attackers like snipers and warriors, which are not that difficult to avoid since Byleth has axe breaking. You could just bait them with Byleth, and Byleth has decent res, so he might be able to, you know, not die to, you know, getting attacked by 3 enemies at once, since he has a decent avoidance rate, but his gambit is Gerald's mercenaries. I would have liked Gloucester Knights or something like that, but whatever, it's Assault Troop, it's fine. However, there were a couple of close calls in this map where I play a bit too recklessly. Yeah, there's this one thing that if a map is like stupid easy, whether it's an Ox battle on Maddening for example, I will play recklessly and ignorantly and not like even, you know, check abilities or, you know, highlight them to see their radius or their movement, you know, their range pretty much, and it could sometimes result in me losing the map entirely and forcing myself to retry. So I have to get rid of that habit whenever playing, you know, 3 houses or strategy games in general, because sometimes, you know, 3 houses can get a bit too easy, and it's one of the easier fire emblems even on Maddening, because Maddening is more unfair than actually difficult, if that makes any sense. But moving back to the story, so the post-game interview is that we get the chalice. Constance explains a whole bunch of stuff about the chalice and what it is, and brings up about how the chalice was lost to time and was stored away. We are interrupted shortly after we got the chalice and the golems are on our tail. We head back into Abyss and have no time to grasp for air and catch our breath, because that golem is strong. And let's just move on to chapter 4 then. Chapter 4 is an escape map. There is a golem right behind your team, and oh, you think it's another golem. I can handle that, but dear God. It has quick riposte. I'd argue it's the most broken ability in this game, right next to counterattack or darting blow. Quick riposte is the ability to essentially double any unit regardless of AS/speed. It's an enemy phase ability, so just don't fight the golems. The only issue with quick riposte is that it's unlocked late game or end game. It's unlocked with the War Master class, which is a class that can be good, but you're going to spam crits with it regardless, so it's a fine class to use, but just spam Wyvern Lords or Falcons and you'll be much better off than having a unit with quick riposte. So I have a little, you know, confession to make. This may get me sent into the Shadow Realm, but I switched to normal, alright? I had reason, okay? I wanted to get the footage out and done with and over with. This script is 4,000 words long, alright? So, yeah. The only reason I did this was so I could get some footage and get the story done over with. But yeah, y'all welcome to dump on me in the comments for it. And yes, I have a separate save file on the hard. I didn't over save it, you know. But the rest of this footage is gonna be on normal mode, so some of the stuff I will say could be completely different from hard mode. But yeah, I'm just gonna be primarily talking about the story rather than the gameplay. But I'll try to keep a close, you know, eye on what I say in the gameplay. You know, so some things may not be correct, and yeah. So we'll just get back to the game. So the escape map is a tricky map primarily because of the constant reinforcements that spawn in. Linhardt and Edelgard can't really move because I need a tank and healer on my team, but getting through the first area is easy enough. But Yuri's foul play is so nice to use because he has Kanto with the ring he has equipped. It's called the Fetters of Dromi, which grants him +1 movement in Kanto. So it's just a March ring with Kanto, pretty much in a nutshell. Personally, I rarely use this in the main game because I see no reason to use this in the main story, and let alone do the DLC paralogs. This is because recruiting Lysithea is a must for me, same with Lawrence and Ingrid, to get Thyrsis and Lewin as well, but more importantly Galaxy of Pegasus Coast. There are a bunch of other units I can pick up to add to my team, but this is a clip from my hard mode before I switched when I was struggling in this map. This is the same map, but it's normal mode. The difference is night and day. Gambits are your best friend, but once you reach the end of the map, well, yeah, I could have beaten this in hard mode. I didn't want to basically struggle then forget about the side mode while playing Blue Lines Maddening. So to finish it, what I had to do is switch to normals mode. So the story here is that we get the chalice back and make it back to safety in this. We then find out that Alfred is held hostage by a group of assassins and thieves, and we are blackmailed to hand over the chalice. Otherwise, he's gonna be dead. So we discuss some things and what our next course of action is. Linhardt steps in and brings up the 4 apostles' names: Chevalier, Oben, Noah, and Timotheus, whatever it is. No, this isn't brought up in the main game and is never mentioned again after beating the final boss. Each of the wolves share their respective crests and all. Funny enough, Alfred brought up that there's a ritual that can bring up someone from the dead. And like I said earlier, this dude is fiending for your mom, and I get it, she's beautiful. But Gerald is your close friend and you gotta have some, you know, morals, if you will. Dude talks about her like he's your father when Joe was right there taking you to mercenary missions and killing people for a living. That doesn't matter for now. What matters is that Yuri talks to us privately about having a little date with him. And Violet doesn't really question it much and just goes through with it. The next map is the map where Gerald did his whole Fire Emblem Dad tradition, and we find Alfred held hostage with a group of thieves. So Yuri brings up the date to make sure you don't forget. Don't worry, Yuri, I got 5 iPhone alarms ready to strike midnight. It almost sounds like the Dark Hour from Persona 3. The more you think about it, it kinda is once you get to that point of the story. Now back to Alfred. He is held hostage and Balthus tells Happy to do her thing, and she sighs. So a giant bird comes through the sky and takes Balthus away from our starting point, which I'll admit that's kinda funny, and that made me chuckle a little bit.
Cowards.
Leave it to me, boss. I got damn.
Hey, Balthus, quit screwing around. Oh. Wow. Flew off of him. I'll sort it out.
So let's kick off chapter 5. This map is the usual, a bunch of reinforcements that can be stopped by killing the warrior with the commander icon, but some will still spawn, but it's not that detrimental. Later on in the map, Happy will spawn more beasts which help my team out big time since the beasts are just the meat shields and they're quite nice to handle since the red units already did good damage to them, so it's no problem taking them out. I then move him and handle the boss, and he's just a generic assassin with nothing to do, and there's not much special about him aside from suddenly appearing in chapter 11 in the main story. Yeah, I don't know why he's here, but I'm guessing he did jack shit in the main game and didn't appear in the time skip since I guess canonically you killed him, so they just decided to shoehorn him in here just to have another placeholder, I suppose. Don't take my word for it. After we defeat the boss, we get Alfred back and the wolves reunite with their father figure, and all is well until Yuri does his thing and switches on up on the team by slashing Byleth and hurting him. Alfred is pleased with Yuri's actions, and then it is discovered that the wolves can be killed by performing this ritual successfully at the cost of their lives. The rest of the team regroups and we remember the date that we must attend to. So I go to sleep and set my Apple alarm to midnight so I don't miss out on my date, because I have a fear of missing out with the great Lord Yuri. I am dressed up for the occasion. This is not my kind of date. I thought he reserved a dinner for us too, but whatever. Yuri is actually not a traitor and is only pretending to be for now. His blood and the others are basically drained from some magic spell, and I guess dude got a whole map worth of enemies backing him up. I'm sorry, but I can't take any of these units backing up a dude desperate to bag a dead person. You missed your opportunity when she was alive. Now we'll deal with these hands Byleth is about to throw at you, cause it's going to be a bloodbath. In this map, in a little sense to some degree. I should preface that these next two maps are back to back, so chapter 5 is the last time you can explore Abyss. Chapter 6 is a weird map where you have to stop these 4 blood vortex tiles that the Ashen Wolves can't go. Makes sense. You need 4 units from your main team to stand on the tile, so splitting them up is ideal. If a certain number of turns pass, you lose the map, and the goal is to kill Alfric, which is not that difficult. The map is filled with Fortress Knights, so Happy, Dimitri, Byleth, Constance, and Linhardt can make easy work of these Fortress Knights with no issue. It takes a bit of time, so once I take care of tampering with the 4 tiles, draining the wolves, and can fight Alfric and finish him off. He has 2 meteor spells, and all you need to do is just tank against his magic, and he'll be fine. The thing is, he is very slow and lacks physical defense, so you don't really need to worry about checking him down that much.
Hell has come due for your misdeeds, Alfric.
It.
Not yet. There's still time.
We finish him off and it's straight to the next chapter. Balthus gives a nice punch to Yuri, and the wolves reunite with one last battle ahead and Alfric heading to the cathedral. Chapter 7 begins with a flashback of Citri and all the stuff Alfric has to say about her.
To me, growing up in the shelter of the monastery, she was my world. All of the memories I hold of her, learning, growing, walking hand in hand, she left me. If that's what makes her happy, then I will watch her walk away with warmth in my heart. It was enough for me to see her happiness. She breathed her last 21 long years ago.
Her warm smile and beautiful look, and he says he is happy for Gerald, and said it in such a way that he is most definitely jealous of Gerald. And I can't take this dude seriously after all this. She's not even your wife, let alone your significant other. That's all Gerald. Here's another thing. Where the f is Gerald during all this? You ain't be thinking he's dead, right? No, he's not dead. According to what Edelgard, the Rite of Rebirth took place last month. So meaning by that logic, we are in chapter 5 of the main story. You could say, oh, well, he's likely deployed on a mission with the Knights from what Alois mentioned earlier in chapter 5. Man, that makes no sense. And it shouldn't make sense. Gerald should be more involved. If he's alive, he should at least pop in or something, but he's just not there at all. He should know Alfric, and since he's likely over 100 years old, he should be more involved in this, or at least be a playable unit this mode, like a Jagan. That would have been nice to have in on your team as a 12th unit. I've been rambling on and on, so let's just get started with the final map. We find Alfred in the chapel with Citri's corpse, and Dimitri mentioned that it's weird that a body can stay pristine after a while, since it was probably Rhea that gave her some of her blood when she was alive. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments below. Alas, the ritual is still not working despite how much blood was given to the chalice, and Alfric literally says,
"Fine. I'll do it myself."
This results into an abomination, into Alfric turning into what seems like a creature straight out of hell. He basically died for nothing, and Citri's body is gone as well, so that happened. This map is an interesting gimmick, so Alfric regenerates his health when consuming these clones made. So sure, kill these guys and handle Alfric as soon as I could. I could gambit his team as well of the clones and his armor as well and take care of his shield, breaking his focus for one turn that he can launch an AoE attack that has the range of the entire map, so it's devastating if you're unlucky enough to get this hit. But I was lucky enough to not get hit by the AoE attack, and he did not regenerate his armor. The fight of more of a matter of killing his clones, chipping him down, preventing regeneration, gambit baiting, being wary of his abilities. He has death blown on one of his health bars and bandage in his last health bar as well, but it's still not enough for my team to be beating. So I finish him off while playing recklessly, I'll admit, but GG. Here's the full fight. So some parts may be cut, but I used to switch 30-second thing to get all my footage, so I was bound to miss some stuff. But here's the full fight, I guess.
Sally forth!
Ready and willing.
Give it my all.
Who, me?
An illusion.
I'm not sure I can fight him. Don't worry, Happy. I can.
The beast can feed off these illusions somehow?
I intended to take one for the team, but damn!
This is but clearly.
Yeah. But
You can't hear me now. Not like this. Not anymore. Adorable. Careful. Caution. I'm at my limit.
I'll give it my all.
Sure thing.
The ending is the wolves looking back on Alfred and can only assume he did mean well by creating the Ashen Wolf's house, yet he found Citri 11 years after she died and did everything to bring her back. All that effort was thwarted because of my goat Yuri. Dude was a master plan by Yuri, executed flawlessly without fail. But in a nutshell, the wolves get disbanded and do their own thing, while the main team watches over Abyss, and that's it. The cool thing is that you can pick up the Ashen Wolves in your team as early as in Chapter 2, which is quite nice. The units don't have enough support conversations, however, with the other units, so it kinda sucks. What's weird is that Balthus and Host are close enough, which Host is Hilda's older brother, but Balthus has no supports with Hilda. Instead, he has support with Claude. Some characters would have had incredible support conversations with the DLC units, such as Claude and Yuri, Yuri and Ash, Happy and Lysithea, Constance, and Annette. Those would have been great support conversations to have, and there's more, but this video is already way too long. Look, overall, there's some fun to be had with the DLC mode, and all the side mode has some fun to it. It has no replay value, because all your map runs will be the same, which there's little customization, which is fair, so I'll cut that some slack. There's not melee challenges to do in this mode. You will always have Dimitri doing crazy good damage to the enemies. It's a fine side mode overall. As for the story, it's okay. The first 5 chapters were actually quite good until Alfred wouldn't shut the hell up about Citri, and that's a terrible motive to have while trying to sacrifice 4 people, and it's just really stupid. And yes, Yuri's right, no one's gonna take him as an actual threat. Edelgard is much better written as the villain, only in Blue Lions, but I won't get into that. But yeah, that was a look back at the DLC and Cinder Shadows. It's alright. I wouldn't say the DLC is that detrimental in helping you out. You can still handle maddening with no issues as long as you don't mess up and shoot yourself in the foot pre-times, because post-time skip maddening, the only difficult chapter is chapter 13 if you're playing Golden Deer, Blue Lions, or Silver Snow. The rest is not that difficult, but maddening was a good addition to 3 Houses. It made me appreciate the game more, as it's difficult yet almost unfair yet balanced, fair. It's hard to describe it because of how broken 3 Houses is. But there's also Engage, which I would love to make a video on it, but I don't have the game yet and will not buy it until I've beaten all routes on maddening. But until then, my next video will likely be different from Fire Emblem and a different game, but that's for another video. And again, thank you for so much of the support on my videos, and as always, enjoy yourselves and have a good one.